Everybody, Will here with this week's interview chair. We're going to continue along with the breeders. It seems to be so popular. And how can you not have a breeder showcase without this lady, Terry Miller from Deja Vu Briards? Sit back and relax. Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's interview chair. We're going to continue our breeder showcase. And how can you not have a breeder showcase without this lady? Hi, Terry. How are you? Terry Miller from Deja Vu Briards.
Hey, Will. I'm great. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in ages.
I know. You look fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what not going to dog shows will do for you sometimes. Isn't that awful?
You got good skin.
Well, it's all lighting and the makeup crew and stuff. No, there's nobody here but me and my dogs. Oh, well. So things are good, though?
Yeah, things are good. We're really, really busy. I'm really, really busy. And we're in the middle of finishing up a dog show that I'm chair of. And we just had one of our main judges have to cancel.
Oh,
so
no.
we're scrambling to find somebody to replace someone that's got 4 groups.
Yeah.
So
it's difficult now, isn't it?
Really.
Because there's so many shows, so they're all busy. So.
And half these people I've never heard of.
I know.
How is that?
I know. You accept assignments now looking at the panel and thinking, oh, who can I have dinner with? I don't know those people. But,
Oh, and it's shocking to me that I'll do some checking on them and there's somebody that come from my own group and are from the general area and I never heard of them.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy.
Yep.
All right, let's get started.
Yep.
Tell me, Terry, how you first got involved in the sport of dogs.
So I think getting involved with the sport of dogs starts when I was a kid and my parents wouldn't let me have one. That's where I started. I've always blamed my mother for that. When she would complain that I had too many dogs, I always reminded her it was her fault because I was deprived for so long. And I was dying for a dog. My parents did take us to a couple of dog shows. And the first dog show I went to, Frank Oberstar went best in show there with his Maltese.
Oh, wow.
So we were in Cleveland at that time and saw that. I had no idea what I was looking at, but I remembered it was this tall, thin man with a white fuzzy dog and looked up the newspaper clipping I had that I had saved from it, and it was him indeed. But anyway,
that was so cool back then when they had newspaper clippings for them. So
I know, very yellow paper. So really, I didn't have dogs for a long time. I went to college. When I graduated from college, I got a degree in something totally different than what I do. But at the end of college, I thought, really, what I've really always wanted to do is train dogs. And so that's how I started. I graduated from college. I got a job with a dog trainer that was very experienced and well-known. And I worked for her for a few years and wasn't showing dogs, but sort of started in obedience a little bit, got a pet standard poodle and did stuff like that. And then finally it was like going to some obedience shows. I thought, wow, confirmation. That's really interesting. And so that was 1976 when I graduated from college. And I probably started showing dogs a little bit for clients, my training clients who had show dogs who they could not control. they would say, well, will you take it in the ring just so you can make it behave? Okay. So I had no idea what I was doing. So that was around 78 or 79. And the first show I went to, I showed a crazy Briard that I had a client that couldn't control it. And it was just about making sure it didn't bite anybody at the dog show. And it won a major under Don Jones. And that was, that was it. That was the beginning.
Your first time in the ring, you won a major under Don Jones.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, on a Briard, and Briards were like, that was the only Briard I ever saw or knew at that point. So I had no connection with the breed whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And then I actually had a couple of other clients. I finished a Mastiff at that time. I had a client that had bought a pretty good Mastiff from New Jersey. And they had me show it because they always dreamed. They bought it as a show dog. They didn't know what they were doing. Neither did I. But I showed it and finished it easily because it was nice. And then I started thinking, wow, I think maybe I'll get a dog of my own.
But you hadn't even really shown, like, you didn't have any training or anything.
Nope. I was a dog trainer, so I knew how to do basic behavior management, but no, not at all.
Wow.
I was a little pet person, and it was the first dog I ever really owned. I mean, my parents finally got a toy poodle when I went away to boarding school. Thank you very much. Couldn't get it when I was there, but they did. But anyway, so that's how it started. And really, I looked at a bunch of breeds. I really it was an intellectual process for me of finding what breed fit me. And I had been a dogaholic my whole life. I had every dog book, read every dog book, knew every breed, all of that, but didn't have one. So it was sort of my dream coming to fruition, and it was so much to consider. So I looked at a bunch of breeds, and really finally I ended up getting a Briard because of the breeder. I liked the breed. I thought they were interesting and complex. And I liked that they were shaggy, and I liked that you could do stuff with them and stuff like that. But I met Mary Lou Tingley, and she was an incredible human being, an incredible breeder and dog person. And I just knew that she was the one. She could have been breeding Minfins. It wouldn't have mattered. It was what I felt like I could learn from her and the relationship I could develop. And I loved the breed. They were attractive to me and interesting. So that was how I got the first Briard. I talked to her and saw them win the group in Cleveland with Fido What's Happening, who at the time was the top winning one and was the top winning one for a long time. Then he went on to win the Working Group the Garden. And he called me about 6 months later, said, I have a puppy. And it was like, okay, off we go.
Oh, that's a good start. Like, you walk in, if you look at your start, you get a major under Don Jones. First time you walk in, you finish the Bull Mastiff, then you get the puppy from this woman. Oh my, that's
Yep. And that dog that I got, he was a nice dog. He had a really good temperament, and which was my primary concern, because the breed had such a bad reputation, which was deserved. And Mary Lou Tingley, when I met her in person in Cleveland at the show, she looked me in the eye and she said, I will stand behind my dog for life as far as the temperament goes. And if you don't even like the look in the dog's eye, I will replace it. I will take the dog back. I will do whatever you want me to do. And for me, that's what I wanted, was some sort of anchor from the temperament standpoint. So that dog finished with like 3 majors, and I showed him myself, and then and finished with a group placement. And we took him to the National, and he was best of opposite at the National. He was finished by then, but he was young.
You must have thought this was easy.
It was easy. It was nothing. Well, this is the way it's supposed to go, I guess. And he was probably 13 months old. It was under Joe Malore in Connecticut, and he was best of opposites. But by then, I had bought a bitch from Regina Kiter, who shows most of our dogs now. From her mother. Regina was like 15 years old. And I bought a bitch from her mother, and that bitch went winner's bitch at that same national.
That's cool.
This was my first, well, I had attended one national and watched it, but that was my first national that I actually had a dog at. So that was the start.
It was a good start.
Yeah, and that first dog, his name was Champion Fido, Take the Money and Run. And we just had puppies from his semen, which was collected 34 years ago. It was frozen 34 years ago.
Wow. My
vet said to me when we used the semen, wow, this semen was frozen before I was born, before she was born. That's crazy.
It's crazy what we do now, isn't it? Sure is.
Yeah.
So where'd we go from there?
Well,
you could have stopped in some people's career.
Yeah. You know, I had an incredibly lucky break. I had two incredibly lucky breaks in dogs when I started. Shortly after I was in dogs for a couple of years. Went to the AKC Centennial in Philadelphia and met up with a friend there who had Briards, also from Mary Lou Tingley, and she had a stud puppy that she had gotten that she didn't like, and she didn't know what to do with it and with this bitch, and she offered her to Art Tingley because he was the main event in Briards. He was the man. He won everything, and he had tremendous visibility and success in Briards. And she offered him the bitch to Art, and Art wasn't interested in her. He didn't think she was good enough. And her mistake was that she didn't let Mary Lou see her because Mary Lou had a better eye. And so when Art said no, he didn't want her, she asked me if I wanted her. And I said, oh, yeah. She had come to my house, and I had shown her a little bit, finished her at Westminster for this friend, and she stayed. And her name was Tinsel. She was like a huge game changer or game starter for me. Wasn't perfect, but she was extraordinary in so many ways. And she is behind everything I have. She's the foundation of it. She had an amazing temperament, probably the best temperament of any dog I've known, not Briard, dog I've known. And she was prepotent for producing it. And she was structurally remarkable. I didn't know. I knew that she was beautiful when she moved. She had this fantastic cadence and foot timing and elasticity. I didn't have those words, but I knew what I was seeing. I knew nothing. And she was mine. And it was like, I didn't really know how lucky I was. I knew I was lucky, but I didn't know how lucky I was. So she was a real foundation for me. She was the foundation for me. But at the same time, that same friend, Judy Odom in Texas, had a bitch that she had bred, and the bitch had come back to her, and she couldn't keep her because she was really more involved in Boudiers. And she said, hey, I have this bitch named Tasha. You want her? She's Tinsel's half sister. And it was like, okay, sure. And she was older. She was like 5 years old when I got her, and took her to the Nationals. She was reserve winner pitch at the Nationals, which wasn't quite finished. And she was, like Tinsel, an amazing contributor to what I did. So basically, I say I started out with 3 bitches, Tinsel, Tetley, and Tasha, all closely related, and they were like the start of it. And I was lucky. I had brilliant mentors who knew way more than I did and helped guide me, because they saw these great dogs who I had no responsibility for other than they lived in my house. But the mentors made an enormous difference.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the start of it. Tinsel, I decided to try and show myself as a special. I finished her, and I campaigned her. I put a best in show on her.
I think I remember her. What was her full name?
Sabonor Woodbine Tinsel.
I think I remember her.
So Yeah, she was bred by a woman in Chicago, well, Rockford, Illinois. She was bred by a woman in Rockford, Illinois. She was inbred on all the Fido, Mary Lou Tingley's dogs. She was inbred on all of those. She was a granddaughter of Fido What's Happening, the dog that won the working group at the Garden. And she had a multiple best in show dam. His name was Fido Polypulata Brian Meyer.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, campaigned. And so that was Tinsel. And then I I was working too much and I couldn't go to dog shows every weekend. So I gave her to Nina, because Nina was right here in Ohio. And I said, would you show her for me? I, of course, didn't have a penny to spend, but Nina was starting out and so was I. And she specialed her and she ended up placed in the group at the Garden. She won the breed at the Garden 3 times. I won one of the breeds with her. Nina won the others. And Nina put another best in show on her. And then in the end, I took her as a veteran to the National, and she won the National on the veteran class under Ann Rogers Clark.
Wow, I think I remember that. I remember seeing that picture, I think.
Yeah, because I put a picture of her gaiting across the front and back covers of Kennel Review magazine, and it said something like "Form follows function," or it was a beautiful mover. So, anyways, that was, and I had 3 litters from her, and based almost all that I did on what she gave me and that Tasha gave me, her half sister. So that was sort of, my heart is in breeding. I love dog shows. I love to go to dog shows. I don't go to as many now as I did. There's too much going on at home and stuff like that. But everything I have comes down from that and is mostly inbred on those foundation bitches.
Well, tell me some about some of the dog. We all know the dogs, so tell me some stories about the dogs you were campaigning. Like that.
Well, so Tinsel was really the first, and then I had a daughter of hers that was winner's bitch from the bred by class under Richard Guevara.
Oh wow,
and
Richard Guevara.
She went on and won. Yeah. She went on and won some groups, and then that was that, and I kept her and bred from her as well. And probably the dog, there I think when we have something like, I don't know, 20 best in show dogs, 15 maybe. 15 best in show dogs. I have it written down somewhere. But so we had probably the dog that most people knew was Flynn, and he was a great dog. I think the reason most people knew him is because he was nuts. He had a fantastic temper.
He was fun to watch. That's why he was.
He was. Oh my God, he was like a fire-breathing dragon.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. He was eye-catching. So.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So he broke the all-time best in show record, which was held by Brian Meyer, who I consider Brian to be a breeder judge. I always joke with him about that. But he was the main game in town. He used to call me Brand X. I could never beat him, ever, no matter what I competed with him against. I couldn't beat him. And he held the best in show record, which was held prior to that by Art Tingley. And finally, one day, I had a bitch that I had bred that I was campaigning. Her name was Champion Deja Vu Every Little Breeze. And she's a bitch I won the national with under, what was his name? Tom from California.
Stevenson.
No, not Tom Stevenson, but younger Mayfield.
Oh, Tom Mayfield. Okay.
Yeah. Won the national with her and I placed in the group at the Garden with her. And she won a couple best in shows. So I was showing her at the time. She co-owned with some people in Cincinnati that had Briards for much longer than I had, and took her to a show in Chicago under John Connolly and beat Brian Meyer for the first time ever. And the bitch's name, as I said, was Every Little Breeze, which was a song. And I'll never forget John Connolly going over her in the ring. Brian was in front of me with his dog, and John Connolly, as he was examining the bitch, was humming the tune of Every Little Breeze Seems to Whisper Louise, or whoever that goes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I won the breed that day. That was a big thing. Of course, Brian Meyer was like shocked, as was I, because nobody could beat him. But anyway, so we had her, and then went on from there to a couple of other dogs. There were, I guess I should talk about a bitch that I produced whose name was Champion Deja Vu 4-Leaf Clover. And she was down from Tinsel. She was a Tinsel daughter. She's the top producer of all time in the breed. I think she produced 20 champions. And she produced 2 Best in Show dogs, 2 Westminster Group Placers, and Flynn was her son from her. So Flynn and his half-sister out of Clover was a bitch named Champion Deja Vu House on Fire. She had been shown by Emily Snyder in Illinois, and Emily got set down for putting bans on golden retrievers.
I remember that story.
Yeah. And then she went on from there. She retired and went on to be shown by Tommy and Andrea Glassford for a while, and then when they retired, she went to Mark Bettis. And so she was a Westminster Group Placer, and she was a multiple Best in Show dog.
All your dogs are Westminster Group Placers.
No, 5 Westminster Group Placers. 2 of them were 4-Leaf Clover Gets. That was Flynn and House on Fire. So Flynn was shown by Gavin, and that was just a whole chapter in itself.
I'm sure, yeah.
Because Gavin was a chapter in himself, but Gavin and Larry Cornelius, I should say, because Larry showed him too, but Larry didn't have the control over Flynn that Gavin did. Flynn had some respect for Gavin. Larry walked over the top of.
They were quite the team, though. They were quite the team.
They were.
Yeah.
They were. Yep. So Flynn went on to win 4 nationals. His last national was from the veterans class under Adel Trout Lauren. He was almost 11 years old.
Wow.
And won the Canadian national under tall Jim Reynolds.
Oh, Mr. Reynolds, yes.
Mr. Reynolds. Yeah. So that was the story of Flynn. Flynn still holds the record. He's the top sire of the breed. He's got a son who's almost equaled his record as a sire, who's a dog that was also a Best in Show dog, not as well known by some, whose name was Champion Deja Vu, Up Close and Personal. And so he was shown by Regina. And then after Flynn, we showed a couple of bitches. We showed a bitch named Champion Deja Vu Ruffles Have Ridges. And she was a tawny bitch. She also placed in the group at the Garden. She won a national and holds the all-time record for bitch Best in Shows, not very far behind Flynn. She was owned by, the reason she was named after potato chips was because she was owned by people that had started and owned the Cape Cod Potato Chip Company. They lived in Cape Cod. They bought this puppy from me. They were Briard people, and they bought her from me as a puppy and always dreamed to have a top dog. And So she was born in the R year for Briards because we named consecutively through the alphabet, letter by letter. We all follow the system in the United States. So she was born in the R year, where all Briards born that year have the registered name start with R.
Okay.
Of course I had to name her Ruffles Head Lizzie. So she went on and broke the Bitch Best in Show again, like I said, Best in Show record, and still holds it, and placed for the Group of the Garden and won a national too. So there was her, and then we showed right before her a bitch named Champion Deja Vu Purple People Eater. And Regina showed both of these bitches, and Purple People Eater actually broke the Bitch Best in Show record first, which was held by Jenny Del Pastor, a bitch from 20 years previous that Art Tingley had shown. She was a French import, and the dam of my first Briards. And so Purple People Eater was a multiple Best in Show bitch. She won the Canadian National from the classes under Boxer Man.
Jack Ireland?
Yep, Jack Ireland from the classes. And then, so we, back to back, we showed Purple People Eater, who I called Violet, and Regina showed her, and then we showed Ruffles Head Lizzie. So,
I don't think you know how to fail, do you?
Oh, I've had my failures. Like the time I bred House on Fire, who was a bitch I said that placed in the Group of the Guard, and she had some Best in Shows, were showed by Mr. Glassford and Emily Schneider. And I had the agreement with the owner that she would come back and be bred when she was retired. So she came back and got bred, and I lost almost the entire litter.
Oh, no.
I never bred her again after that because it was just a disaster. A litter of 11 puppies. There were only 3 puppies that survived it. Terrible. So that was definitely a disaster.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So where did you go? What do we have on the ground right now? What are you doing right now?
Well, after Flynn, we showed up close and personal his son, and Art showed a dog that I bred that was from Alaska but came down, and Art showed him to a couple Best in Shows. And then Dominique and I got together. Dominique moved to the States, and we bred together a black bitch whose name was It Is What It Is. We call her Izzy. She's almost 11 now. But Dominique campaigned her, and she won 2 nationals and was winner's bitch at the first national, then won 2 after that, won a national under Thora Brown. She was the first black one really I ever did a lot with. I, for a long time, didn't really touch many of the blacks in the breed. And then I felt like the blacks got better. And we produced her. And she was a daughter of Up Close and Personal. And for me, of all the dogs I have my ideas and my opinions about the quality of each dog, their strengths and weaknesses. But for me, she was the epitome of breed type. She is what I would make all Briards look like. Not having to do anything with her color. Mm-hmm. Color is not that important to me. But she is, to me, the they should look in make and shape. So we specialed her, and then Dominique had a stroke, so Dominique couldn't show dogs again.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
Wow.
So we had a dog named Champion Deja Vu, cool as a cucumber. And this was before Izzy. I'm sort of jumping around as my memory allows me to remember who there was. And he's a dog that Regina showed. When he was a young dog, I'd sent him to Mexico, and he was down there campaigned by some Briard people at the time. And he was number 1 working dog, or number 1 working there, and number 2 all breeds. Got a bunch of Best in Shows from Americans and Canadians down there, but from South and Central America,
Yeah.
judges, all kinds of them from down there. So I brought him home, and because that was the agreement, he would come home when he was ready to be and was mature. And Regina, he started out with Mr. Bettis, and that didn't work out, and he went to Regina, and he won a bunch of best in shows, won the national, and never won a breed at the Garden, so he was never seen there. But he was a really terrific dog. We're about to use his frozen and see what we get. But in the meantime, we have a daughter of his that was used really successfully. He was only ever used by us at one time with his daughter, who's still alive. So he was a pretty terrific, beautiful, big dog. Really too big for me, but really handsome dog. He was number one all breeds. I think he was number one Briard. And he was I think number 4 Briard, as was Flynn, as was Izzy. They were all hovered around. I'm sorry, number 4
herding dog.
Number 4 in the herding group.
Yeah, I understood.
Yeah, I'm getting lost. My memories.
So you still have dogs out now, right?
Well, we do. We've got a dog we just retired. His name was London Fog. He had finished with 6 best in shows. And now we have a young bitch that we're getting ready, but she's just 2. Yeah. She's really not ready. Most Briards aren't ready till they're like 5. And when we, specialing bitches is dicey, as I'm sure you know, because they need to have puppies. They need to be bred. They need to give their DNA to the breed, especially in a breed that's not very popular like ours. So we finished her, got a couple group placements, one from the classes, and now we're growing her up. We're going to play with her just a little bit, but she's now 2. She has to have her health testing and get bred, and we'll get her ready to go out in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So we really have mostly young stuff, but we have a couple of more mature dogs that weren't sort of ready and conditioned. They didn't live here, or they didn't live with Regina, so we're getting them ready, and we'll see. This bitch we think should be pretty fantastic. Yeah. Her name is Say Yes to the Dress.
Oh wow, that's a good name. So have you done any judging at all?
I have judged sweepstakes at the National. I judged on the Eukanuba Breeders' Cup at Canfield one year. I've done some things like that. Yeah. I'm not so crazy about it. I don't have the temperament to judge. I'm not cheerful enough.
I think you have so much to offer, though. It's like I've been listening to you for the last hour or so, and you said your parents got a toy poodle after you left. I think if they had gotten a toy poodle and you went in that direction, you probably would have been just as successful in toy poodles.
Oh no, that's yet to be seen and won't ever be seen. But I think I got a lot of luck and a lot of help in Briards. I had fantastic mentors. Besides Mary Lou Tingley, there's a woman in Old English whose name is Cass Moulton Arbel, who was local. Now she lives in North Carolina, and she's a god to me. She's brilliant in dogs, and she was just an incredible mentor to me. I learned so much from her, and still I call her with thoughts and ideas.
I believe mentors are so important, but you also have to be that person that seeks them out.
Right.
Oh,
for sure. Yeah. Times have so changed now. Nobody wants to know about it.
I know. They just want the ribbons. So.
They already know it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instant gratification time now. So.
Yes. I mean, instant gratification, hey, it's great if you can get it, but it doesn't last you very long.
No, it doesn't give you any background. You don't know exactly what you accomplished.
Yeah. I look at dogs, the whole dog game, and like everybody else, I'm always contemplating what's wrong with it. What could be better about it? And I don't have a lot of hope that it's very long lasting ahead of us because nobody's really come together to try and save us from all the mess that is denigrating dogs. The animal rights people, the poodles and the designer breeds and the politics and the terrible legislation that's forcing people to not be able to breed anymore or to have to move to other states or locales.
Yeah, we've had that. That's happened quite a bit with some breeders. So
exactly, yeah. So it makes me sad about that. How is this going to go on? I have conversations with some of the handful of breeders in Briards, because there are not very many of us that are truly what you would consider breeders. There's a few people that have a litter here and there, but there are a handful of really smart, accomplished dog people in Briards. But it's a handful, it's not a lot. And we say to each other, who's going to inherit this? Yeah. Who's going to inherit our breed? What do we do? Many of us are around the same age now, and what do we do with our frozen semen? Like, I have frozen semen on 13, 14 dogs, some which has never been used.
Right.
I haven't used Flynn's frozen semen. I haven't had the dog I thought would be right for it, and I'm looking at all of the semen of Cool as a Cucumber and Flynn and some of these others, and Up Close and Personal, who was a fantastic sire. And I think, well, I don't have enough years left to use all this stuff up. I don't breed enough to use all this stuff up. And what am I going to do with it? Who's going to do what with that?
Well, hopefully the next Terry Miller will approach you.
Yeah.
Always that hope.
Yeah. It keeps me awake nights sometimes. I worry about it. And then the other thing that I've concluded, which Dr. Hutchison, who was my veterinarian for a long time, I think his hair caught on fire when I said this to him. But I said after I'd used a little bit of my frozen semen, I said, you know what? I think frozen semen is overrated. Because if as a breeder, I want to constantly be going forward and going back to frozen semen that is from a long time ago does not necessarily mean that it can take that role, because I should be going forward and improving with every opportunity I have. And the human mind is a frail thing, and the memory is a frail thing. And I think, I remember the first time I used frozen semen on a dog from my very first litter. His name was All the Tea in China. And I looked at those puppies. I had a litter of 9 puppies. I looked at those puppies and I thought, I forgot that I used to get bad fruits like that. I've gone past these fruits now, because it was 15 years since I had frozen his semen. And I forgot I used to get long hops like that. I lost touch with where I was, where I'd come from, and I knew where I was going. And I thought, so how worthy is this? How useful is this frozen semen when it's taking me back steps that I've traveled beyond? Yeah. And I said this to Hutch, I said, I'm not so sure frozen semen is all it's cracked up to be. I mean, if you get into a health issue, maybe you can go back and harvest that frozen semen and it can help you. But as a breeder, I'm not sure what its place has. I'm going to try and see where we get. But the frozen semen results so far that I've had have not been that fantastic. And I think part of it is that probably my bitches were better. And of course, you can't freeze their eggs. Mm-hmm. So you can't go back and access them directly, except through their sons or their sires. Right. So using the frozen semen, and that coupled with when Flynn won the national at 11 years old. And I remember standing there, it was a thrilling win. I mean, fantastic win. But I stood there and I thought, how am I standing here with an 11-year-old dog, and there's no young dog that could come up and challenge him for that win.
Yeah.
There wasn't a dog that could touch him. He had a couple of sons that were there that were nice, and it's not like Flynn was perfect. He wasn't. He was charismatic and a stallion of a dog, and he thought he was the king, which carried him really far.
Yeah.
But how is it that this 11-year-old dog, which was great, held that win, and there were no takers, and it was a big national. There were lots of chances. So those are some of my breeders.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. You know. Wow. So we kind of got off subject, but so you're but it was good. We were speaking about judging, so you have no real aspirations of judging them because you don't.
All right, we were thinking about judging that about an hour ago.
Know.
No,
I like where we went though. That was good.
I don't think so. I don't really like it that much, and like I said, I don't really have the temperament for it, because for me, I would have a hard time awarding a ribbon to a dog I didn't think was worthy, and I can find worthiness in plenty of less than perfect dogs, no question. But then I would have a hard time not saying, "Who told you that?"
Yeah, that might not go over well.
Exactly. So I doubt that. I'm sorry that Dominique won't be judging. She's a brilliant dog person, a brilliant breeder, and has an incredible eye. You know how when you think about an eye for a dog, I'm more deliberative, and it takes me a longer time to find my way to what I want. Let's say from evaluating a litter. Mm-hmm. Dominique can look at the litter and just say, that one, and we will come to the same conclusion, but I take a long time. She goes right to it. She would be a great judge from that standpoint.
There are some natural eyes out there that just they know where to look. It's an artistic thing, I think, in symmetry and balance and.
Yep, and just an intuition and whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that I don't think I would enjoy it.
Okay.
Like I said to people about the pandemic, I loved the pandemic because it suited my antisocial nature. At least the antisocial parts of me.
Okay, I have one last question for you then.
Yep.
If you were to meet the 20-year-old Terry right now, what advice would you give her, if any?
Stay totally true to what you believe, and don't let anybody tell you you're wrong. And I'm talking about in life as well as in dogs.
Well, that's good. I think you followed that from just sitting here with you, listening to you. I think it's amazing how you came in with both, like you were tentative coming in and you just took it by storm. It's like, It didn't matter. You were.
Well, I love breeding. I love dogs, and I love evaluating dogs, and I love breeding and watching the development. And I went to art school, and that's what my degree is in, and really it's the same process for me.
Oh, sure.
It satisfies that. I don't paint and draw very much anymore, but I do make dogs, and it's the same.
I really appreciate you doing this for me, Terry, because it was a great interview, and I'm glad we're all going to get to see it.
It's great to see you, Will. I'll see you around somewhere,
for sure.
I guess.
For sure. Say hi to Dominique for me, for sure.
I will.
All right.
I will. Thank you.
All right. You have a great night or day. Still daytime.
Well, it is. Take care.
You too. Thanks, Terry. I knew it would be great. It was great catching up with you. I haven't seen you in so long, so it was fun to see you. If you like what you're seeing here, guys, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me at dogshowtips@gmail.com. If you want to find out what's happening in Will's world, go to willalexander.net. And don't forget about the Dog Show Drive, the podcast with Wayne Kavanaugh and myself every Thursday. Take care, guys. Next time.